much about the nation toward the religion. And I would like to form three issues. And first I would like to talk about how the faith, human, spiritual forces in 6 BC, 8 BC, and 18th century, which making our history latent and significant. And then I would like to mention some events, especially the cases of Ricci and Stewart, which made great contributions to Chinese society and governance. Of course, my final purpose is highlighting the religion's roles to our current politics, current construction of our society. So as it is well known, in the 6th BC and 12th century AD and 18th century, at this time called the era of great centuries of spirit, which pushed and developed our history. Finally, we had the 30 Years' War, and after 30 Years' War, we concluded a treaty called the Westphalia Pact. This modernized our nation, making nation as the monopoly of the politics or the governance. And in this time, human spiritual forces like Christianity, Islamism, and Confucianism assist sovereign nations for different aspects of the governance, of the social construction. So it acted as a lodestar that religions and nations help to each other in a long span of time. That is, international relations, international politics, and religions affect to each other, reacted to each other. And this span of interaction actually not initiated after 30 years of World War. I just did a research in my PhD on the evolution of world state, and I made it that our human spiritual forces transforming at a different period of identity other than events or the governance. I call it the hero's identity. That refers to the birth of our relief. Because of time, I don't want to extend, I just simplify that this several periods. And the second time or era called the primitive identity. This time, human beings gradually or come to realize our nature, our heaven, and different society, like Edison mentioned the imagined society involved. And the third time is I call it the classical state identity. During this time, our city-states, petty kingdoms, nationalism finally prevailed. Just now I mentioned during the Westphalia War. So we came into the sovereign identity. This based on the nation state, like what we are now, and this is called the national states. What is called the post-sovereign identity? This really is the paradox, and I would say, what we are now experiencing is a time of post-sovereignty identity. At this time, different factors, different agents interact with each other and make it our world a really globalized world. Different influences like religions, forces also start to reverse their influences in the nation governance. So finally, what will be the future? Technologically, I made it called the world state identity. It's although in the future, but it's possible. It's inevitable. If we say the world state in the future, how about the fundamentalism? I refer to the Islamism, the fundamentalism. Why this occurs? Why our world is progressing on the one hand, on the other hand, there are some against the forces of the nation. And I think that because the imperfectness of our state, which drives the birth of fundamentalism. Let's see that the regional wars and the global wars in the 20th century. I don't want to extend it here, but everyone is here knows the wars caused great catastrophe and disaster. And Cold War, of course, after the Second World War, the former Soviet Union and the United States are fighting each other on the face of ideology. And after the Cold War, you will say, why this? How about the nations rose? But during this time, the religious forces come back. But why not in the Cold War? Because of superpowers struggle, geopolitical struggles, override religions rose. So after Cold War, the religion comes back, especially fundamentalist Islam, trying to fill in with the vacuum of what nations left. So this is the causes of extremism or fundamentalism. I would conclude that because of the geopolitical struggle between powerful nations and deficits of our globalization, and also the technology, ethic, and moral issues, we know now technology is progressing, making anything possible, but also producing some deficits. As the technology we clone animal organs, and even we colonize some technology trying to clone human organs. This is really, I call it anticipation of the evil. So this caused the imbalance between material and spiritual sequence. And also the hegemonic imperialist culture trying to create a sense of religious legitimacy and identity. This I call for especially I refer to the hegemonic culture or imperialist culture to Islamic culture. So that generated some we call so-called failed state or collapsed state. I think I would say this does not the function failed, but the identity failed, identity lacking. So that's why Samuel Huntington argues for we will have a clash of civilizations. And this making our reality, as one of our audience mentioned, the reality of our politics, paradox, terror, and anti-terror. Here in the Muslim world, this crisis manifests at two levels. And the first, because the war after the 9/11, in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and this caused continuous and stable civil confrontation. Secondly, more importantly, Muslims' identity are threatened. So they fear losing their unique identity. That's why a spread terror comes one after another. I would say this is all contrary to our human belief, contrary to our human nature, human essence seeking happiness. Our religion, as mentioned by one of our speakers, refers to the principle of love, peace, beauty, and goodness. So religions should act as a force to promote peace and development. This is coexistence, and this is the match with the Lord Star between nation and the religions after their 30 years war. So when we ask upon the current situation, as I mentioned, the post-sovereign nation identity, will the Noah's Ark outdated? Will be the Noah's Ark outdated? I mean, sovereign nation outdated? I would say no. But the reality, let's see the reality. Isolationism, separatism, protectionism, extreme nationalism. This reminds us the coming of 15th century when globalization was first initiated. I mentioned that we are in the time of the post-sovereign nation. But we wonder, will the old sovereign nation come back? This is what we are considering, and this is what we are discussing these 2 days. This is the big topic. I think I would like to discuss, I would like to answer questions so that to extend that topic. Next, I would like to mention the micro-functional forces of individuals and our missionaries. Since we are celebrating and since we are commemorating the Macau Ricci, so like to mention the Macau Ricci time in 16th century, and another missionary called John Leighton Stewart. And this is what the characteristic of that time in China. Say that feudalism, isolated, too much absolute power, hierarchical order, and also the cultural monopoly of Confucianism. Only Confucianism prevailed at that time. Technology and development, so that there were much civil wars, kills, and invasions, which I don't want to expand here. So our two missionaries devoted much to China, to the modern construction of Chinese sovereignty. See here, they were so engaged that they spoke Chinese wrote in classical Chinese, wore Chinese clothes, played with local children, and enjoyed the local snacks, turned out even a China expert. There are many more stories and interpretations about their contributions. But to coincide, I would say they just contribute to through teaching, through learning, and through importing, through educating, and finally importing their enlightenments, their reflections to the governance of the old China. This is quite well known. 东学西渐, 西学东渐 is a popular term for China. So their activities, their contributions provided policymakers, diplomats, and public with the original Chinese situation to the Western people. But also we learned that get a window for the Chinese to understand the West. So this is the time of process. This is time of integration. And this is time for China and West learn to each other. Say more than 4 centuries passed. And now what we are experiencing, how about China now? Everyone is perplexed by Sino-US relations, conflicts, the trade war, geopolitics, and struggle of the so-called subsidized trap. To put aside some deficits and side effects of Chinese governance, we have to acknowledge economic payoff, technology flourishing, and culture prevailing, and their vision much higher than the past. Even imagine their human destiny of shared a group or a community of shared faith. But what we've reflected, not their individuals and these missionaries' contributions to making the modern China progressive, but we have to realize the time of Ricci, the contribution of Ricci, their conceptions, their ideas, their vision, more open, more inclusive, and more initiative. And they believe, they are confident that the East and the West can integrate, can help to each other. So finally, I would like to conclude, we are in a truly globalized world. Any separation, any anti-globalization, any protection, any geopolitical struggle is contrary to the essence of our human nature, of our world state vision. We are truly in a vulnerable, interdependent world. So I would like to mention my mentor, Alexander Wind, who is the famous constructivist. And there's one famous saying. He said, anarchy is what the state makes of it. That means the modern state, even the sovereign state, has much deficits. And that must be and have to be improved by the diversified forces, diversified factors. And this will make our world progressive. So this calling as my topic, the mega structure and the petty individuals to work together for the future. My understanding, a so-called world, quantum world or future world is both Marxism, whatever is called Marxism, socialism, communism, and Smithism. They call the end meaning of the religion. I would say fulfilled of a progressive value or identity will not be a monopolist victory of any god, but the commitment of socialism, capitalism, or godism. So this is we are living in a quantum world. What is quantum world? One of our distinguished speakers mentions yesterday, they said the essence of happiness of God is nameless, effacable, silent, and yet near. I would say our world also remains latent, elusive, noisy, but dynamic. So action speaks louder. What we are experiencing, what we are meeting together today is to making our future better and progressive. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Zhang. So I think you can stay perhaps, because I suggest that we can take perhaps 5-10 minutes for question before we go to the next speaker. So I don't know if you have any feedback to this very broad presentation about the building of the nation state and to present a stage where the forces of religion also and other forces go to challenge the nation state. Any question on that?
Thank you for your presentation. For me, that's really, that's really wonderful, especially because you also talk about the fundamentalism and then about Islam, which is, let's say, which is familiar in my context in Indonesia, and then I believe that you also realize that when we talk about Islam, especially, we will not just generalize Islam in as one group, but I will share also at least my experience with the Muslims in Indonesia. We know that the Muslims are actually, let's say, there are different, there are groups also in Islam, especially in Indonesian context. In the same bookstore, for example, you can just see Muslim writers, Muslim authors who write. So one book will be about the traditional in Islam, or we can say about Puritanism. We can also see the other authors writing about fundamentalism. The other will promote peace and then more harmony is created by Muslims and then so forth. And also the same thing happens in the society, where there are groups who promotes something like you have to kill the others because they do not belong to our group, where the other group will say, no, you cannot do that because our religion prohibits that in our law. And then eventually we'll find those two comments in the same Bible, not Bible, sorry, in the same scripture or in the same Quran, where they quote the other verse, and then the other group will quote the other verses just to justify their opinion. So, let's say my question is, what is your opinion on this situation, especially in my context, in the context in Indonesia, with this diverse Islamic thoughts or groups or thinkings or ways of living, we can say like that, especially so that we can grow together as one nation, and then we can be great together as one nation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I would say Islamism has contributed greatly to our human civilizations. Fundamentalism is contrary with the religion's values, so also contrary to the true belief of Islamism. And I would say with other forces of religions even themselves can help to each other, can progress with each other. So I would say and also appreciate other forces of religions to apply the progressive ideas or conceptions, visions to other religions. Thank you.
I wonder if you are talking at a deeper level the question of state and religion, which according to European culture, this question was always very strong through the history of centuries. So I wonder if the question of state, yes, but religion is beyond the state, but the history shows sometimes we mixed up the two. And this is why in several countries the separation of state and religion. But so in your presentation is what I'm trying to understand. If at a deeper level you are talking about the question of religion and state, because sometimes the state wants the religion under the state. But also I recognize in some circumstances, other cultural, is religion wants to control everything. So I wonder if we have to go deeper. What is state, what is religion? If I can, in my first reaction, religion goes a little bit beyond the state. But on the other hand, you can be often and often again, and we have some systems and some ideologies. The state controls the religion. So I'm questioning. We have to dialogue to try to find out something which is truly good to humanity.
Thank you very much for your hard questions, but I think it's a very good question reflecting the current paradox of sovereign nations and the religions. As mentioned in history, religions has played a significant or almighty role in our construction of modern nation. But I would never deny the forces of religion to the construction of a current nation. The imperfectlessness of our nation demands religions playing a better, progressive, and constructive roles to our government in terms of public policy, education, and even international relations.
Yeah. So probably, thank you very much, Professor Zhang, and for this interesting talk. Thank you.